Welcome to another video by English Matters. We're going to continue with looking at Christmas Carol, and we're going to focus on how the themes are explored in the novel, or novella I should say. Now the question you may get in the exam could be a thematically based one, so this is an interesting video. I will repeat what I always say is to subscribe please and click the bell so you get notified of any new videos I upload. So in A Christmas Carol, Dickens shows the theme of Christmas through, well, first of all, its title and structure, of course. The theme of the novella is clear from the title, A Christmas Carol, which refers to the traditional carols that are sung at Christmas time. Of course, the evidence of this is that the novella has an unusual layout as well, using 5 staves rather than chapters. Staves are a sort of musical denotation, aren't they? Analysis: the 5 staves reflect the structure of a carol and link the story to the joy of singing at Christmas time. Another way, of course, the theme of Christmas is explored is through Scrooge's nephew Fred. Now, Fred is persistent in his cheerful approach to Christmas. We see him celebrating wholeheartedly with his friends. Obviously, the evidence of this is, after a while, they played at forfeits, for it's good to be children sometimes, and never better than at Christmas, when its mighty founder was a child himself. That's a direct quote from the novella. Dickens shows Scrooge's nephew as the opposite of Scrooge. He's juxtaposed quite dramatically to Scrooge, of course. He's able to abandon himself to childish pleasures at Christmas and enjoys the company of his friends. Another way that the theme of Christmas is explored, of course, is Tiny Tim. Now, through the character of Tiny Tim, Dickens shows the importance of family and love in the Christmas tradition. Evidence: back came Tiny Tim before another word was spoken, escorted by his brother and sister to his stall before the fire. Now, Tiny Tim is well loved by his family, as we see in the generosity that his siblings show him here. So why does Dickens use the theme of Christmas in this novella? Well, obviously Christmas is a vehicle, a theme in this novella to highlight Scrooge's transformation from a miserly existence to a totally reformed character. It's also, Christmas is used to show the importance of compassion and forgiveness, as represented, of course, by Scrooge's nephew, and to explore the importance of love and family as shown through the Cratchits. Next one is, how is the theme of redemption shown in this novel? Of course, Ebenezer Scrooge is that central figure when we're thinking of redemption. And Dickens shows or explores this theme through a number of ways. So we started with Scrooge as a miserable, covetous old sinner, as he's described in the book. At the start of the novella, Scrooge rejects all offers of Christmas cheer from everyone he meets. Evidence: "Christmas a humbug, uncle?" said Scrooge's nephew. "You don't mean that, I'm sure." When Scrooge says Christmas is a humbug, we see him rejecting all the compassion and celebration that is linked with the festive season. Now, it always annoys me that people say, oh, somebody's a Scrooge because they don't like Christmas. Scrooge doesn't necessarily dislike Christmas, he dislikes humanity, and Christmas is ultimately seen as a vehicle, an expression of humanity, rejoicing, and compassion and generosity, all things that Scrooge rejects. The error of his ways: Dickens uses the ghost of Christmas present to show Scrooge how unpleasant his behaviour has been. Scrooge hung his head to hear his own words quoted by the spirit, and was overcome with penitence and grief. Scrooge feels ashamed when the ghost uses his own words against him. We see him beginning to wish he could change. And of course, the line here that's thrown back at Scrooge by the ghost of Christmas present is the Malthusian sentiment that he expresses in stave 1 about if they're going to die, let them do so and decrease the surplus population. But redemption, of course, is interesting as well. When the last of the ghosts has left and Scrooge finally awakes on Christmas Day, we are shown a man reborn. His own heart laughed, and that was quite enough for him. And remember that sort of a quote about Scrooge's heart, if you like, that beautiful simile used in stave 1. He was like an oyster, a hard exterior, but perhaps a pearl inside. Scrooge becomes generous and full of life. We see him welcomed into the homes of his family and friends, and readers are delighted by his transformation. So why does Scrooge change? What are the catalysts? What causes his reformation? Obviously, he's generally moved by the thought of Tiny Tim dying, of course. The ghost of Christmas Present uses his own cruel words against him, only to actually demonstrate why they're wrong. He sees ultimately what he's missing in family scenes of celebration, especially when we refer to the ghost of Christmas past, and we've seen Fran and Bella, of course. So let's move on to the next one. So how is the theme of social injustice explored in the novella? So in A Christmas Carol, Dickens shows the theme of social injustice through a number of means, really. Obviously, Scrooge refuses to give money, refuses charity. In Stave 1, Scrooge is asked to make a donation for the poor and destitute of society. The treadmill and the poor are in full vigour then, said Scrooge, suggesting that these people should go to the institutions he supports through his taxes. Scrooge's refusal represents the selfishness of the richer elements of Victorian society. Instead of creating a community in which life can be enjoyed by all, Dickens highlights the injustices of wealth distribution. Ignorance and want, of course. Dickens personifies ignorance and want in the very harrowing image of two very wretched children in Stave 3, I believe. Dickens uses two wretched children called ignorance and want to represent the poor. A stale and shrivelled hand like that of age had pinched and twisted them and pulled them into shreds. A very dramatic and visceral sort of language he uses, ultimately belying his anger at the injustices here. The children that hide under the robes of the ghost of Christmas Present are pinched and twisted rather than being happy and joyous as we would like children to be. The ghost tells Scrooge that the children are the responsibility of all mankind. As Jacob Marley says, mankind was my business, or what he's saying is mankind should have been his business. Also, the thieves dividing up Scrooge's belongings are significant thematically, because Dickens uses the thieves dividing up Scrooge's belongings to show how his death is received. Every person has a right to take care of themselves, and he always did. That's an evidence quote from the text. As the thieves sort through Scrooge's possessions, they comment on how miserly he had been in life. This makes him and the reader appreciate the failings of only thinking of oneself and what you'd ultimately deny yourself through this kind of uneventful life, which of course Marley's ghost is in almost a purgatorial state, because he's led this very insular, closed-in life where he hasn't embraced all the possibilities that humanity can offer. But Scrooge is redeemed from this by the visitation of the ghosts. So what elements of social injustice does Dickens highlight in this novella? I should say. Scrooge insists that the poor law prisons and workhouses should deal with the destitute. Ignorance and want highlight the unfairness of Victorian society, and the thieves show how people were driven to steal from the dead. So these are very interesting thematic points you must make about this novel if you are, as said, you're asked to explore a specific theme with reference to a quotation extract, but with wider evidence from the text. Anyway, please do subscribe. You've been watching a video by English Matters. Please click like, but more importantly, please do keep studying.